Aloha all. This is Unconventional Insights. I'm Simona. This is my 19th podcast. We're going to call this Healing Past Relationships. This could be romantic relationships, family, friends, whatever. It seems to be a theme, so we're still in Scorpio time. And as I said before, a little astrology energy is Scorpio is about sex, death, and transformation. So it's always a time that Scorpio is quiet. It's sometimes hidden. It's deep. It's the ability to penetrate a depth. It's decay and death and endings, and with that, rebirth and transformation. So all of that is Scorpio energy. So it's a potent time. And we're also in Mercury retrograde, which, if anyone knows what that means, it does affect some, not me so much. Mercury retrograde happens for 3 weeks, 3 times a year, so it affects the planet. And it just means that the planet Mercury, which has to do with communication and various things, when it goes retrograde, it actually like stops in a station and then appears to go backwards or rotates the opposite way. But what happens in our day-to-day world is that's the time the car breaks down, or you were supposed to meet a friend at this particular restaurant at this time, and then they're like, wait, I thought you meant like the other day, and you weren't there, and trying to do a public meeting and everybody says they're coming and then nobody shows. So it's not the best time for external advertising. But I was actually born with Mercury retrograde, so I understand it well. It means my mind works very internalized, so my process and the way I communicate is silent. My silent meditations, which I've loved for many years, and it's benefited me. And also understanding from the inside out is kind of how I've looked at it. So I've used it to test new relationships I might be in, to see how well we're connected, because I do like that when there is that kind of heart connection or that soul connection, that Mercury retrograde doesn't really affect it, because there's a deeper way of relating. So it's not about, oh, I misunderstand you and got the wrong day or the wrong time. It tends to flow. So that's a nice little thing. If that's happening for you, check that out and be grateful for that. And last night, I had my meetup. I do once a month in South Austin. I call it Be a Relationship Architect Meetup, where I just like to connect with the community. This was my 3rd meetup, which I love that. I have a couple diehard fans, and they listen to my podcast, so I appreciate you. And hopefully we're going to build a bigger community and have that regularly, because I want to, with these podcasts and my meetups and all my workshops, my mission statement as a soul is to change lives with my insights. So that's what I'm hoping to do. And also, I am grateful for my own personal processes that happen so that I can share those with you, because I have never been a person that believes something's personal or don't share that, or because my own experience, when I could articulate it, helps others see their same issues with an example. So I find that my style of teaching is through personal storytelling. My friend just said to me, no matter what anyone's issue is, you seem to be able to like have this host of many references of stories you can give to it. And I'm like, I'm a storyteller. It's like it's from the olden times. We tell stories to prove our points. So this week, here we are in Scorpio, November, and the holidays. So it's the end of the year. I've said this before, where I notice November, December starts to get more contracted. So our days are shorter, so we have less light. And in a sense, that's metaphorical, because with the darkness, they say we mature in the dark and we grow in the light. So there's maturing to be done. And the dark is literal. It is like there's more time of dark to like feel around and figure it out, as opposed to these, shining the spotlight, and it's obvious. So, with the holidays coming, this also affects many people and families and relationships, and many people break up around the holidays. Many people meet someone new, and it could like be the beginning of their relationship because they have common values and various things and whatever. But depending on your upbringing, there could be a lot of wounds from childhood with the holidays where loneliness and sadness and all of these stories start happening, and your behaviors are start to act out and various things. But I want to share something that happened with my daughter, whom I love deeply. And this had to do with, so she is now in a steady relationship, and I like him a lot, and I'm very grateful for it. They've been together over a year. And I do understand as she gets older, being my only birth child, I do have a Hanai son that I claim, but we're talking about my daughter now. And the holidays have always meant a lot to me. I raised her with, in Maui, we had, 12 to 20 people every holiday, and it was wonderful. And it was our chosen family because we didn't have a lot of family there. And in particular, Thanksgiving was my stepmother and my father. That was my stepmother's favorite holiday, so they didn't come to visit me, or rarely through the years, because they had their own thing similar where they had everybody, all the misfit toys who didn't have a place to stay would come to the home. And I'm trying to cultivate that now in Austin, with the community that I'm slowly building and the friends that I just adore and value so much. So, but my connection with my daughter, she's a core part of my heart, and since last year she did Christmas with her boyfriend, and I saw her just for a little bit at the end of Christmas Day, and she came for dinner, and they came for dinner, and they were tired and like ate and then left, and it wasn't really, so it was hard for me to give up our traditions of Christmas Eve and going out to dinner every year, and then Christmas Day and our big dinner and how we open our stockings and all. Anyway, so again, more changes to get used to and to see this is how it evolves and it's natural. And I'm just like, okay, but I'm claiming Thanksgiving. She's a pastry chef. She would come over. We'd always make pies together the night before and then have dinner together and various things. Anyways, so I get a text that she wants to go to Dallas with her boyfriend's family, and she didn't want me to be upset. And what I do Thanksgiving the day before at my house. I mean, I have my dad, I invited a couple friends, and I'm like, no, they work. I can't do that. And initially I was angry as soon as I get the text. First off, that it's a text. Second off, that how can you do this? Like this last minute, I felt manipulated, and that she wants me to change my whole and the people involved our holiday for her. So I was very upset about this and hurt, and I wasn't able to feel the hurt. I could feel some sensation around my heart, but I kind of wasn't able to really take it in. This happened on Saturday, and I was meeting a friend. We had this wonderful talk and about just life and enjoying this cooler weather in Austin, and so I didn't want to distract from being present with her. And anyway, so the bottom line is it took a couple days for that to really build up in me so I could feel it. So I could feel the hurt, because when I go into a process, I am a life coach, I am a teacher, and I am authentic. And I do not believe when something that upsets us or hurts us or makes us angry or any of those things happen to distract in any way. Like, I am a person that I will clear the slate and I will sit with all the intention in the world for as long as it takes to complete the process. And nothing matters more to me than that. When that process is coming up, it's a gift, it's an opportunity to look at something deeper. So here, the actual issue that happened with my daughter caused a lot of pain. She's my heart. I could feel heartbreak. I could feel this. I didn't sleep the other night at all. I'm up all night. My spinning mind. In Chinese medicine, they say the mind and the heart are connected. It's the same meridian. And when you have anxiety and sleeplessness, it's because your heart is disturbed. It's they call it disturbed Shen. The heart is unhappy, and that was happening to me. So then I woke up, finally got out of bed, and I cried and cried and cried and cried and cried, and really allowed that, and tracking it in my body, and I could feel it around my heart and the tightness, and was aware of that. And I don't know how you are out there, but when I can actually get to tears to really feel that sadness, that's one of my favorite emotions because it's so purifying. And it's so, I always feel most connected to God. I've always said this: when I'm sad, I'm most connected to God because it's such a fragility and it's such a deep vulnerability. And again, you just feel your heartbeat, you feel your breath, and it's quite beautiful. And my wonderful dogs were around me and supporting me. And my older dog, Shakespeare's 13, he's a triple Scorpio. He's always been able to tune into my emotions, and he would just look at me like he knows, I know you're sad. And they'd sit next to me. It was a beautiful thing. But here I am going through these waves of sadness where tears, and then it would stop and I would be quiet. I had some very profound, deep meditations. So that's the plus of being in pure sadness, is to just allow that feeling and to just really allow that mud to settle, that dust to settle, and listen to the sounds, the wind chimes, the birds, and just see what's coming up. And I would notice, so I'm anchored in my meditation, I'm anchored in this experience and really allowing this process. And at the same time, I could see these thoughts coming up. But they weren't like thoughts that I was enmeshed with that I acted on, because I was so in an alpha state. I was so centered and anchored in my body and my feeling state that I could watch these thoughts like clouds come up. And it was interesting that my habitual nature, my past nature, is to fix things. When things are uncomfortable, I instantly want to task and fix it. So I'm very male in that way. And I was noticing me, okay, I'm going to call this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And then I'm like, no, I just kept taking a deep breath and saying, I don't want to distract from this process. If I were to act on those thoughts that are a mechanism, and a mechanism is something that is a false persona, it's a distraction from what we're really feeling so that we don't feel the pain. And I was aware of that, so I don't want to act on this. So I just kept, and it kept coming up insistently. It actually wanted me to fix it and change it and move out of the state of the sadness of the place I was in. And I kept breathing through it. And then I found what was happening is the more I allowed this kind of tenderness and this permission to just feel that life is changing and this is what's happening. And she texted me and said, you know, it's challenging for me since I've been dating in their families versus mine, and I want to be with you, and all of those things. And I'm still looking at it as, but it's a choice. It's like, so why is it the choice to be with them and not with me at all? And I know they have huge families, and I just have myself and my father, and but it's not about like quantity. It's about, this is your blood, this is your core, this is what you've known your whole life. So it was hard for me. I was trying to make sense of it in my head, and I realized this isn't going to happen because it was just causing too much pain. So all I could do was accept, just accept that it's changing, that she's growing up, that all of these things are happening. And as I deeply gave myself permission to accept this, I could actually see it. It was like it was a death. It was a death of a way I've known. It was a death of a belief that I've held of what mattered to me. And I could see it like turning into the compost, like a pile of leaves out in the fall, how they're starting to decompose and turn back to dirt, to this rich, fertile soil. And I was visually seeing this process happening within me while I was feeling, while I was being present, while I was following my breath, while I was listening to the sounds. And from that, I started to see, because I didn't distract, that underneath this sadness, that was real, this disappointment of not spending Thanksgiving with my daughter. It was very real. And it's what initially broke the heart open. But underneath was deeper, that even before she was born, I had this sadness. I believe I came in this life with a broken heart. I have forever been on the quest of my soulmate, and I am a life coach and specializing in relationship workshops, and I've started counseling in my 20s, my early 20s, and regardless of two marriages that came and went, I could tell you the values of them and everything I've learned. And I believe as long as we go through and see what we gained from it and take responsibility and not place blame on someone else, that nothing is a waste of time. So here I am, seeing this, believing in this true love, and I believe it's why I'm such a good counselor, because I really see in the highest intentions how to communicate, how to connect, how to compromise without losing your true essence, your true, meeting your needs and the other's needs. And so from that, I saw how important it is to honor these processes, and remembering that deep sadness, that loneliness of partnership. So then a new layer came in for me. And it was like this big review. I would say it's a 40-year-old scar that got stretched open, and we started to see underneath it in this compost of death and rejuvenation. So in that, with this sadness of, then I realize, okay, as I am articulating to the universe my needs and what I'm looking for, I clarified, yes, with that life partner, that one of my deepest needs is he needs to value tradition and holidays and the desire to actually want to be with me to share those holidays and share those experiences with my family, his family, our family combined. And I believe that matters. And for all of you that struggle with this, because this is a main topic, where do you spend the holidays? Like, when is it your home when you have a new family or a new relationship beginning, versus both parents' side, both families, and how do you find a harmonious blend? I mean, this is where communication skills and good tools come in handy to discuss this. But for myself, bringing that in to see that is a new awareness that became distilled, that I was able to declare, I didn't write that out before. I didn't intend that in my life partner before, because I didn't know how important and how much pain I've accumulated through my pasts from a young age because of not having that one-on-one connection, that sense of family. To me, family could be one person. I have the feeling of family with my father. I mean, he and I go out every Sunday, and I love it. And he and I now go out on Christmas Eve together, and it's enough. It's fun. It's wonderful. But at first it was a challenge because it was new. It wasn't what we were used to. So when you see what you have, like what is good now, it helps to move forward on many, many things, and we get the benefit instead of as I say, those that are in the future have anxiety, those that are in the past have depression. The present is the only way you could really see the fruit of everything. And as for my daughter, if she ever listens to my podcasts, I do pray that one day my darling daughter will feel that she's ready to move into her power and host her own Thanksgiving dinner on the day of Thanksgiving. And invite both families and start to really own that part. So let's move on to, so I want to just clarify what I was saying. So by not distracting from the event that caused the initial pain, I was able to look underneath that and see a deeper old wound that wanted to be reopened. And with that old wound became clarity. There was a message in there. It's like going back in time and opening this time capsule and seeing the little Samana wrote this and said, someday you want this sense of partnership and love and family and friends all around you. So in Austin, I'm inviting friends. I have my dad coming for Thanksgiving. Now I can task. Now I can make the calls. But that day, it wasn't a day for decisions. It was a day to just feel. So notice when that death is happening, when change is happening, as you deeply accept it. See what is the seed that is beginning to sprout in this death. What is the rebirth that is happening? And really allow yourself to look at that and benefit from that, because that's the gem. That's the time capsule. That's the message that you need to remember and really benefit from. Okay. I hope my sharings help people and give you your own insights, how you could apply it to yourself. So one thing I want to say, and I brought this up in my meetup last night, is sometimes I've counseled people out there when they're talking about romantic relationships, and I ask, is any of my listeners out there, have you ever been in a relationship where everything's going along great, or it appears to be going along great, and all of a sudden there's this change, like out of nowhere? He doesn't call, she doesn't call, it shifted. He wasn't as affectionate, she kind of pulled away. Or the relationship just ended, or you got ghosted, or something happened. So, if that has happened to you, I will tell you, this is a plug for my workshop. David Garrison and I are teaching our Be a Relationship Architect, which is this month. It's in how many days? 8 days or something. It's an intensive on Saturday and Sunday, November 16th and 17th. It's $300 and lunch included. And we have a relationship contract you are going to. So we have like a participation guide we're giving everyone. We have a contract you're filling out, and we're doing deep interpersonal, interactive, process-oriented communication, intimacy, and relating games, along with lectures, taking notes, finding revelations, declarations, all these things. So, with that, if you have been the one that suddenly had this relationship change and you felt blindsided, that it came out of the blue, I will tell you that never happens out of the blue. What that means is you lost connection with that person, or you didn't keep the appropriate connection that you might have believed you had, because nothing happens out of the blue if you are tuning into each other and saying, tell me what's up, tell me what's changing, tell me what's happening, how do you feel about this, what new needs are being created, how can we adapt to that, are we still growing together, do we still have a connection, all of these things. So keep that message there, that it's all about connection, as I've said in other podcasts, with friends, with family, anyone that matters to you. Keep a connection, even if it's a text every few days thinking about you with your favorite emoji, something that shows, wait a minute, that person is trying to keep a relationship with me. So now, when we're looking for steps, I have 7 steps here of healing hurts from past relationships, however that's done. So the first step is to identify the hurt and be specific, and only come up with one. So identify the hurt, be specific with what the hurt is. The second is decide if you're willing to let it go. So this was a big topic last night, because this is what I found. I've had people come to me, paying me $100 an hour, which is my life coach counseling fee, and I'm definitely worth it. But I'm finding that they just want to complain or argue or place blame on the other person, and I stop them and say, are you at a place that you're able to let this go, this issue? Because it doesn't sound to me like you are. I heard 3 mechanisms in there: distraction, blame, projection. So I don't see, and for us to be authentic with ourselves and be kind with ourselves, and to see sometimes we can't let something go, and be okay with that. Because as soon as you accept that, it starts to shift. And yeah. The third step is to find your responsibility in the circumstance. So this takes a lot of maturity to see if you are thinking about your ex-husband, your ex-wife, your ex-whatever, and how much pain and how horrible, and I just don't deal with them anymore. But as you're saying that, you're tight and you're charged, and in that second your joy is stolen, you know that person has power over you. And you actually, if there's an unresolved issue with a family member or an ex-partner or a present partner or friend or roommate, would you want to give them power to steal even one moment of your joy when we have no idea how long we're here to live? We could go in our car to go up to H-E-B to the store, and that's it. That was it. And we decide to be angry and hold this against someone. Just, you take responsibility. What is your hook in the circumstance? Why did you engage with this person? Why for that long? What were your fears in there? Number 4, forgive them, yet not to forget the behavior. So that's a big one. I'm going to say that again. Forgive them, forgive yourself, yet not to forget the behavior. And I say this phrase, he who does not remember the past is condemned to repeat it. That was a famous philosopher, George Santayana. And I love that because it's true. Never forget, like an elephant, never forget the behavior, because you will repeat it. And you need to see this. If you got hooked before, if you were in a circumstance or a situation that caused pain before, you need to be able to identify it like a block, like a label. In meditation, they talk about the 5 hindrances. So it means like you can't meet something with your mind in detail, like this is what's happening. You need to see it as a lump sum and just label it as black energy, negative energy, not for me, however you want to see it. But don't just deny it and push it away. Give it a big label if it has a shape and if it has a color. Even when it's interacting with a particular person, see it as a lump and really memorize what that energy is like. How it affects you or how you respond to it. If you don't respond in your highest nature, if it causes anger or frustration or fear or insecurity or feeling invisible or not being heard or any of those things, then memorize what that person brought to you and really look to see if you can claim that and name that. Then in the future, you will recognize that energy across the room, and you will just see it as, I see this lump. I understand that. I don't do well with that. I'm going to walk away from that. I don't care how cute he is or how articulate they are or what enticed me. There is no enticement that is going to have me go towards that label, towards that lump, towards that hindrance that doesn't work for me, because I know that I don't do well with that, and I'm going to care for myself. So really understanding on knowing your part in that. So the other thing is, number 5, focus on what is good in your life right now. And as I was saying, let's look around and see what we have now, like that first holiday that it was just my dad and I going to Christmas Eve dinner. We were so sad the first year because my stepmom had passed, my daughter wasn't with me, and it was just he and I. We could barely talk and get through dinner. And now we're just so happy. I'm so happy I have my dad. I'm happy I have my dogs. I'm happy I have my house. Yesterday, when I was out on the swing and just crying, I was so grateful that it was a gray and cloudy day, that there was a little mist drizzling. I was grateful my dogs came up to sit next to me on the swing. I was grateful that I changed the water in the bird bath. And I instantly, in this deep grief of just feeling this like I was hollow inside. I was just tears. It was so sad. And then I looked up in that moment, and there were like literally 10 birds in my little bird bath. There was a cardinal and a blue jay and all these wonderful little sparrows or whatever they are. I just smiled. I was so grateful. It was like God said, look at this little blessing. In that moment, focus on what is good in your life right now. In that moment, I was able to feel multi-level. I stayed authentic to my process of the grief, of the sadness, of the acceptance of change, of the death. And I was also able to appreciate with such joyousness those birds and the weather. Like sometimes when I've been sad and it's a sunny day out, there's a conflict. But when I'm sad or I'm in an internal place and it's gray outside, or it's rainy, I'm like, that's a harmony, like that's a balance. And I'm just so appreciative that the universe it's like, are my emotions created? Am I creating the weather through my emotions? I mean, I've had thoughts like that growing up sometimes, but I've appreciated it and I notice things like that. Okay, back to number 6. What have you learned from this relationship, this one that we're focusing on, this specific hurt? What have you learned from it? And how are you different? And I want you to write that down. Write down a couple sentences or write down several, or enjoy it and just really see, what have I learned from this relationship and how am I different? How have I changed? Because the more you can identify, the more you won't repeat it, the more you'll acknowledge, wait a minute, I've grown a lot. The number 7 is commit to change. So the question is, what steps of self-love are you willing to do on a daily basis? And if you do not have a repertoire of self-love daily habits, you may be ready to take my total rejuvenation, my total renovation cleanse. So it's a 30-day detox. It's physical, mental, emotional detox. I do it one-on-one for 30 days for $500. That is going up to $750, where I'll give you this cleanse. We have tech support nonstop, and I'm going to connect with you via FaceTime or Skype. It has to be visual because I'm using the dry erase board and everything. And we do an hour and a half to 2 hours, 4 classes. So that is available, and I'm going to do that again as a group of 6 in-house in Austin, the end of January. I don't have the date yet because I'll be in Maui until the 17th, but somewhere the end of January. So if you're interested, contact me. And when you're doing it in-house in a small group, it's only $300 each. If you're doing it one-on-one with me, your own thing, it's $500, and again, that's going to raise to $750. So that is something, and I will literally change your life with detoxing the body, the mind, the emotions, the spiritual detox, all of it, and you will love it. I have a couple clients I love dearly in the process now. We're on week 2 as of Sunday, and I'm very excited for them, and I've had several that have completed this, and they are different because of it. Okay, we're getting to the end of our podcast here, but I want to say one more thing. So we have, when we want to move on, if we're talking about romantic relationships, you cannot create a new relationship. You cannot allow love into your life in its purest, most beautiful form if there is pain in your heart. So you have a choice of pain versus love in your heart. And we could also look at that as fear versus trust. So I would go for love and trust over fear and pain. And we have all been hurt deeply, many times. If we haven't, we lived in a bubble or we've been in denial and we've missed out. So the human experience is about learning through pain, through having our heart break many times. And each time it breaks, it opens and we see more. And it reveals itself to us. So building trust is very important. And we talk about not being able to trust another person in our life because they hurt us. But I teach and counsel that trust is all within. So in ways of developing trust, number one is trusting yourself to be authentic in the moment, meaning under any circumstance, I am not going to be afraid to say this is how I'm feeling, even if it pushes someone away. We had the talk last night in our meetup that if I'm to say this is who I am, and this person I just started dating, it freaks them out and they're like, I'm out of here. You would much rather that clarity early on that that person isn't going to meet your needs and that person doesn't have the depth or the integrity that you need. And if it's not okay to share who you authentically are because it scares them or they can't handle it, let that go now instead of 10, 15, 20 years and a couple kids later. You see that you've never been met fully. So trust yourself to be authentic in the moment. It's about you. That has nothing to do with someone else. But when you could trust yourself, you could trust anyone because you know you will always be there to care for yourself. That's the key. If you are a person that doesn't trust others, I'm going to tell you, I've done this counseling so many years, and I will say you do not trust yourself then. Second, identify your needs, your core needs, and the ways that you feel love. So once you know your core needs, and we did the lecture on love languages, and in our workshop, our architect workshop, we're going to get into that deeper, where you're going to have a whole list in your contract of your core needs and preferences and various things. 3, commit to meeting those needs. So this is you getting those needs met or learning how to articulate in a healthy way, communicate to your partner or those you love how you need specific needs met. Not all of them, but the core needs. And 4 is replacing fear with trust, as I said. So in Chinese medicine, that meridian is the kidney meridian, which is our water element. It's the season of winter, which we're entering with this cooler weather. And the kidneys. Some people are having lower back pain, which is right where you bend. That's where your kidneys are, and your adrenals are right on top of your kidneys. If you are having kidney issues or urinary issues or water retention issues or dehydration, anything having to do with the water element, and if you don't feel it's physical, meaning you're feeling it physical, but you feel like you're doing everything correctly, drinking enough water, a little bit of sea salt added to that, then I want you to look to see, is a lot of fear coming up versus trust. And if fear is coming up, do your 10-minute journaling every day and start writing that down so that you could really own that and gain your trust. And you're gaining your trust by trusting yourself to be authentic in the moment. So, we are coming to the end of our podcast. I hope some of these steps helped you. I hope my story with my lovely daughter and my process helped you. And blessings to you as that deep stuff comes up. Do not fear it, because that transformation of pain to death, pain and death versus birth and newness, there is nothing greater. And that is yours, and that is your gold, and it is just beautiful. This is what we're here for. And again, my preaching, The more you can love yourself consistently, the more you can know thyself consistently, the more your partner will show up and mirror that and reflect that and be there for you and support you, and you support them. And I am going to end this for now. Next week, I'm going to get into a little more about forgiveness and have a lovely Mercury retrograde. Be kind and understand that we have that inner communication. It's not always the flyers and the postings haven't worked, but those real connections will shine during this time. Aloha. Oh, wait a minute. And my contact information is Samana 808-283-7587. My website is getting more new and improved, spaluna.com. And if you want to do the workshop, there is still space available. Come and join us. Couples 2 for $500, singles $300, and we'd love to have you.